here with a bit of a different interview this evening. I'm here with Coach Chris Winton. I know you've been with us a few weeks, but I will say it anyway. Welcome to the Rebels.
Thank you.
Much frustration last weekend in the season opener. I noticed yourself and Scott were having a bit of a talk after the game. If I can just ask, what was that about at all, if anything?
I think it was just to kind of share our frustrations of the game, really. We don't want to harp on about decisions and what have you, but we felt it was quite unjust, the final result. With there not been a lot of, it being quite devoid of quality, the actual game, I thought we were still resolute and quite, showed a real still in our play. We were just talking about the fact that we deserved something from the game, and it felt a little bit unjust, but we both said that you go away from games if you've lost, and if teams carve you open, you don't sleep very well that night, but it wasn't the case at all. It was just a case of a little bit of a moment of switching off possibly, but we felt that as if we deserved at least a point from a full-time outfit away at Maidstone. So that was kind of the gist of it, really.
And just going back then, just before you signed on with the Rebels, of course, it looked like you were heading into a new season with Kings Langley until, of course, you took the role here. I just wanted to ask, what made you change kind of course, I guess?
Yeah, I think I was well on course to leading them into a new season, as you say. I've always had aspirations to work back in the National League, being from 3 seasons at St Albans. I loved it. I just felt like it was, when the phone call came, it was very unexpected but very welcome. And when I spoke to Scott on the phone, it didn't take too long for him to sell me the club. I've had dealings with Slough myself, been in the dugout against Bakes and Underwood before, comes across as a club that's full of decency, hard working, and I really wanted to be a part of that. So I had kind of committed to Kings, but I think you've got to be a bit selfish in certain moments, and yeah, that was the kind of reasoning behind it, really.
Did Johnny Goddard have any involvement at all? Because I think it's been said that he might have spoken to you as well.
Yeah, I was actually on a bit of a beano with the lads down in Torquay early June, and got a phone call one night. I'd had a couple of sherbets, I suppose, and Johnny kind of relayed the idea to me. He said, "It's a stab in the dark. I know you're a manager, but would you be interested in coming to Slough?" And I think your gut tells you straight away. I was quite excited by that from that call. And then I think that was the Friday afternoon. By the Sunday morning, I spoke to Scott, and it was kind of a done deal by then. So yeah, John had some involvement in that.
And I just wanted to ask you then, what's the difference between managing and being a coach or an assistant?
Yeah, I think so. The majority of my time in management's been as assistant manager. So I only had a brief spell at Kings, maybe 5 months, but the intensity is another level. So I've got a newfound respect now for managers that have to deal with what goes on within management. As a number 2, I think I'd always took results the same as a manager, but you don't quite see what goes on the phone calls, the kind of stuff that goes with being a manager. So I've got full respect for people like Scott and others that do it and have been in it for a long, long time, because it's relentless, and you give up probably some family time, which is, you understand. But yeah, it was unrelenting, I'd say. And I think my strong suit is on the coaching pitch for sure. So again, when the opportunity arose, it was kind of, now I've dipped my toe into management. I think I would never say never again, but I love being out in the grass.
I just wanted to ask you as well, now that you are with us, what are your thoughts on the squad that manager Scott Davis has built, and is there anyone in particular that you're excited to see in towards the season? Yeah,
sure. I think he's assembled a really good squad. I think Scott's quite resourceful. From the contacts that he has in the game, you can see that he's really brought some real quality into the building. Obviously, Johnny Goddard is someone that I've worked with before, so the chance to work with him again was sort of great for me. Same with Minash Sundaya. I've been really impressed with Nathan Minas. Heard a lot about him from just around the kind of level. His movement is very, very good off the football, and if we can get him in good areas, he will certainly score us goals. But I think it's a strong squad. I think we'll go under the radar for a lot of it this year. But I think we'll be a team that's full of steel and grit that will go on and do well.
Another thing I wanted to ask is the dynamic now between yourself, Jefferson and Yella. What's that going to be like now on match days? Who's kind of the priority on the touchline when Scott's on the pitch?
I think we're quite lucky. We've got a good working relationship between the 3 or 4 of us with Scott. There's no real, Scott said this before, there's no real hierarchy with who does what in terms of on match days. We've all got our piece to say. If we didn't have that working relationship, that would be quite a struggle, but I think equally we'll be contributing and hopefully contributing towards a good season.
And I just wanted to pivot slightly towards yourself. I'll start off with a question I've asked a few of the players so far. Who is your first football icon?
First football icon? Okay.
And why? Sorry, I'm saying.
Okay, so my family, we're West Ham supporters, so I was brought up at going to Upton Park most weekends. So this is probably a little bit untraditional, I suppose, but it's probably Julian Dix was a very hard left back, someone that we used to sit in the chicken run at Upton Park, and he was on our side for half the game, and just to see how he portrayed himself in terms of intensity and effort. He was someone that caught my eyes as a young player. Now looking back, he's quite like I said, an untraditional role model, I suppose. But someone like him, Joe Cole was another one. Watched him come through the ranks at West Ham. There's probably Bobby Moore I've been brought up on as a young lad. So yeah, those sorts of players, I'd say.
I was actually going to ask you about the fact that you are a West Ham fan. How delighted were you to see them lift the Europa Conference League in the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my dad keeps banging on to me about the fact the last trophy that was won was 1980, so before I was born. So I've been waiting a long time to see West Ham have some success in that department. Having my son who's 7, me and Dad and my son stayed up to watch that game. It was a school night, and it was quite a special moment. A moment that I didn't think we'd probably have as a West Ham fan. I think you can understand that. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Just going back even further, then you've done a previous interview with a former club before. I picked up on the fact that you mentioned that your dad kind of forced you, I guess, I think is what you said, to watch 70s Dutch football.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask you about that really, and if there was any players you could pick out of kind of that football you were watching then, who would you have loved to kind of coach or train, I think?
Yeah, I think, he sat me down as a young lad to watch the 74 and 78 World Cup. We had old tapes of it, and he kind of relayed to me the fact that Holland were very unlucky in those 2 finals. I think Cruyff was in those sides, Rensenbrink was in those sides, and just it was a different dynamic of playing, if that makes sense, and the football that was being portrayed back then in the 70s. It was something different. Reading up a lot on Cruyff and what he does and the way that he portrayed his coaching methods is something that I've put into like my journey now. But yeah, it stems from my dad probably sitting me down to watch them as a young boy.
And I noticed that you participated in the London Marathon back in April. What was that experience like?
Yeah, exhilarating, and also gut-wrenching as well, I'd say. If you'd asked me probably 6 weeks ago if I'd want to do it again, I would have said no. But certainly now that time has passed, I think I would like to do it again. On the day I got in the wrong pen, so I was trying to aim for 4:15, and I got in the 5:30 pen. So I ended up going through, darting through people at the start, and then by mile 16 I was in dead lumber. I was in trouble. I managed to get it done in the end, but I'd like to do it again and go through things properly, and see where I end up. But I fell a little bit short of 4:15. It was 4:23, but yeah, a great day and something that I would love to do again.
And then just finally, just going back to Slough again, are there any fixtures in particular? I think I know where you might answer this. Is there any fixtures in particular you're looking out for during this season?
Yeah, I think the first one was St Albans. I had 3 very good years there, had lots of highs, got a real affinity to the club, so that was the first one. And then also, when Scott rang me about coming back to Slough, the idea of going to Torquay, Yeovil, Maidstone, those kind of places really kind of whetted the appetite. So yeah, I'd say those were the big 4, I would say.
Well, we won't see you at any of those grounds this weekend, but you will be here, I'm assuming, at Arbour Park to watch us play against Dover. So thank you for the interview, Chris, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Thank you very much. Cheers.